Have you ever had one of those moments where a single unexpected expense felt like it could destroy your entire month? Maybe it was a strange noise coming from your car. Maybe it was a medical bill you didn't see coming. Maybe it was your refrigerator suddenly breaking down when your bank account was already running on fumes. What makes those moments so terrifying isn't the problem itself. It's knowing you don't have enough money to solve it, and if you've ever laid awake at night calculating bills in your head, wondering which payment can wait until next week, then this video is for you. Because today we're going to talk about something most financial advice completely ignores. We're going to talk about why having no money often costs far more than having money. It sounds backwards, but it's true. In many cases, the less money you have, the more expensive life becomes, and until you understand this hidden financial trap, it becomes almost impossible to break free from it. My name is Alex, and I'm a financial educator dedicated to helping everyday people build stronger financial habits, avoid common money traps, and create long-term wealth. If you're interested in personal finance, investing, saving money, and financial freedom, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. It helps the channel grow and allows me to create more content like this. Now let me show you exactly how this trap works. Let's say you're driving to work one morning and suddenly a warning light appears on your dashboard. You know the repair will probably cost around $300, not pleasant, but manageable. The problem is that your checking account only has $40 left until payday. So instead of fixing the issue, you decide to wait. Maybe the car can survive another week. Maybe the problem isn't serious. Maybe it'll somehow go away on its own. A few weeks later, that small issue becomes a major one. The car breaks down completely. Now you need a tow truck. Now additional parts are damaged. Now the repair bill isn't $300 anymore. It's $2,000. And because you missed work while dealing with the breakdown, you've lost income as well. A small problem became a financial disaster, not because you were irresponsible, not because you didn't care, but because you didn't have the cash available when the problem was still small. This happens every day, and once you start looking for it, you'll see the same pattern everywhere. A tiny financial weakness today often becomes a much larger financial cost tomorrow. This is one of the hidden reasons why building wealth feels so difficult for many people. The game isn't just about earning more money. It's also about avoiding the expensive penalties that come with not having enough money in the first place. Most financial experts love telling people to skip coffee or cancel streaming subscriptions. But those suggestions miss a much bigger reality. There is a financial penalty built into everyday life that affects people with less money far more than people with more money. One of the best explanations comes from a famous concept often called the boots theory. The idea is simple. Picture two people. One has money, the other doesn't. The first person can afford a high-quality pair of boots that costs $50. The boots last for years. The second person only has $10 available, so they buy the cheapest pair they can find. Those boots wear out quickly. Next year they buy another pair, then another, then another. After several years, the person who couldn't afford the expensive boots ends up spending more money overall. Meanwhile, the person who bought quality one spends less and enjoys better results. The lesson isn't really about boots, it's about life. People with financial resources can often make decisions that save them money over time. People without those resources are frequently forced into choices that cost more later. The cruel part is that both people are trying to solve the exact same problem. One simply has enough cash to choose the cheaper long-term option, the other doesn't. And that's where the hidden cost of being broke begins. Once you recognize this pattern, you'll start noticing it everywhere. Take something as simple as everyday household supplies. A family with extra cash can walk into a warehouse store and buy larger quantities at a lower cost per item. They spend more upfront but less overall. A family living paycheck to paycheck often doesn't have that option. They buy smaller packages. Because that's all they can afford at the moment, the problem is that smaller packages almost always cost more per unit. They're paying more money for less product, not because they want to. Because they have no alternative. This hidden penalty shows up in groceries, cleaning supplies, diapers, toiletries, and dozens of other everyday purchases. The irony is painful. The people with the least money often end up paying the highest prices. Economists sometimes refer to this as a poverty premium. And once you understand it, you realize that financial struggles aren't always caused by bad decisions. Sometimes they're caused by expensive circumstances. The same thing happens inside the banking systems. Let's say two people have accounts at the same bank. The first person keeps several $1,000s in their account at all times. The second person is barely making it from one paycheck to the next. Now imagine an automatic payment hits unexpectedly. The first person barely notices. The transaction goes through without issue. The second person accidentally overdrafts their account by a few dollars. Immediately, they're hit with a fee that might be several times larger than the amount they were short. A small mistake becomes an expensive lesson, and these fees rarely affect people with large cash cushions. They primarily affect people who are already struggling. Money tends to attract advantages. A lack of money tends to attract penalties. That's a difficult reality, but it's one we have to acknowledge, because if we ignore it, we never understand why progress feels so difficult. But the financial side is only half the story. The other half happens inside your mind. When money is constantly tight, your brain begins operating differently. Every bill becomes urgent, every purchase becomes stressful, every unexpected expense feels like an emergency. Your attention gets pulled toward immediate survival. Instead of thinking about next year, you're focused on next week. Instead of planning opportunities, you're solving problems. When someone is under constant financial pressure, they aren't just losing money, they're losing mental bandwidth. They're using enormous amounts of energy worrying about things that financially secure people rarely think about. This is why financial stress can feel so exhausting. Even when you're not physically working, your mind is still working overtime. You're calculating balances, you're checking due dates, you're rearranging bills. You're trying to prevent disasters before they happen. Eventually, that stress becomes normal. You stop noticing it because you've carried it for so long, but it affects everything. Your focus, your sleep, your relationships, your decision-making, and perhaps most importantly, your ability to think long-term. When survival becomes the priority, strategy often disappears. That's one reason many financial decisions that seem irrational from the outside make perfect sense to someone living under pressure. People often judge the choices without understanding the circumstances. But financial stress changes behavior. It narrows your focus. It pushes immediate relief ahead of future benefits. And that's exactly what keeps the cycle alive. The hidden cost of being broke isn't only measured in dollars, it's measured in attention, it's measured in stress, it's measured in opportunities that never get pursued because all available energy is spent simply staying afloat. Nowhere is this more visible than transportation. For many people, a reliable vehicle isn't a luxury, it's a requirement. Without it, getting to work becomes difficult or impossible. Someone with strong savings and good credit can often purchase a dependable vehicle at reasonable financing terms. Their monthly costs stay manageable, repairs remain relatively predictable. But someone with poor credit and little cash faces a completely different reality. Their options are limited, financing costs are higher, interest rates increase dramatically, the total amount paid over time can be far greater than the actual value of the vehicle. And because the vehicle is often older and less reliable, repair costs appear more frequently. The result is a cycle that feels impossible to escape. Higher costs create less savings create higher costs, round and round it goes. And because the vehicle is often older and less reliable, repair costs appear more frequently. The result is a cycle that feels impossible to escape. Higher costs create less savings create higher costs, round and round it goes. And that's what makes the hidden cost of being broke so dangerous. It doesn't hit you once, it hits you repeatedly, every month, every year, in ways that most people never stop to calculate. Housing provides another perfect example. For most families, housing is the single largest monthly expense, and unfortunately, it's also one of the biggest areas where lacking money becomes incredibly expensive. Think about it. A person who can afford a down payment may be able to purchase a home and lock in a predictable monthly payment. Over time, they build equity and benefit from any increase in property value. Someone without savings often has no choice but to rent, and while renting may be necessary, it can create a difficult cycle. A large percentage of income goes toward housing every month, leaving very little available for saving. Without savings, building a down payment becomes difficult. Without a down payment, home ownership remains out of reach. The cycle repeats itself year after year. Again, this isn't about blame, it's about understanding the mathematics behind financial pressure. But money isn't the only thing affected. Time is affected too. and time may be the most valuable resource of all. When you have financial flexibility, many daily tasks become easier. You can pay for convenience when it truly matters. You can replace equipment before it fails. You can solve problems quickly. When money is tight, everything often takes longer. A small inconvenience becomes a major project. A simple repair becomes weeks of postponement. A short errand becomes an all-day task because you're trying to save every possible dollar. Over time, these extra hours add up, and while they don't appear on a bank statement, they carry a real cost. Every hour spent dealing with preventable financial problems is an hour that can't be spent learning new skills, building additional income, resting, or spending time with people you care about. This is why the hidden cost of being broke is larger than most people realize. It's not only financial, it's emotional, it's mental, it's physical, and it's measured in lost opportunities. Now, before this starts sounding hopeless, there's something extremely important you need to understand. The goal isn't to become rich overnight. The goal is to stop the financial bleeding. Most people think wealth begins with investing. In reality, wealth often begins with removing expensive penalties. Let's say you're carrying credit card debt with a high interest rate. Eliminating that debt may provide a better financial return than many investments. Why? Because every dollar of interest you're no longer paying stays in your pocket. Or maybe there's a recurring expense caused by a problem you've been postponing. Fixing that issue permanently may save hundreds or thousands of dollars in future costs. Sometimes the smartest financial move isn't making more money, it's preventing future losses. And that brings us to one of the most powerful financial tools anyone can build: a cash buffer, an emergency fund, a financial safety net, whatever you choose to call it. Its purpose is the same. It gives you options. When unexpected expenses appear, you don't need to panic. You don't need to reach for a high-interest loan. You don't need to rely on a credit card for survival. You simply solve the problem and move forward. That's why the first few $1,000s you save can completely change your financial life. Not because the amount itself is huge, but because it changes your relationship with emergencies. Problems stop becoming disasters. Small setbacks stop becoming major crises. You begin making decisions from a position of strength instead of fear. And once that happens, everything starts to feel different. You gain confidence. You think more clearly. You become more patient. You make better long-term decisions because you're no longer trapped in constant short-term survival mode. This is where many people finally begin escaping the cycle. Not because their income suddenly doubled, not because they won the lottery, but because they built enough financial breathing room to stop paying the hidden penalties that were draining them every month. So here's a challenge for you. Spend the next week identifying every financial penalty in your life. Look for the areas where not having money is costing you money. Maybe it's high-interest debt. Maybe it's expensive financing. Maybe it's constant replacement purchases. Maybe it's fees, penalties, subscriptions, or recurring costs that keep showing up. Find the biggest leak. Then focus your energy on eliminating that leak before anything else, because financial progress isn't always about moving forward faster. Sometimes it's about stopping what's pulling you backward, and once those penalties disappear, something remarkable happens. The money that used to disappear every month starts staying with you. Your savings begin growing, your stress begins shrinking, and your options begin expanding. That's when real financial momentum starts. The truth is, life isn't always fair. The path from zero to financial stability is often much harder than the path from stability to wealth. But understanding the rules of the game gives you an advantage. You stop blaming yourself for every setback. You start identifying the systems and habits that are creating those setbacks, and little by little you begin taking back control. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is building enough financial strength that unexpected problems no longer control your life. Because true wealth isn't just having money, it's having choices, it's having peace of mind. It's knowing that a bad day won't turn into a financial disaster, and that freedom is worth far more than any luxury purchase ever could be. If you found value in this video, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos on personal finance, wealth building, and financial freedom. And if this message resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.